the position on the 49ers that needs more depth. This roster isn't necessarily done. They could make more moves. Mav, what do you think?
Well, I think that they have to not necessarily upgrade, like getting I know a lot of people want Melvin Ingram, Justin Houston, all that, those flashy names, but they just need to add more depth to the defensive ends because, as Chuy was saying earlier, Eric Armstead is much better inside. He's very talented when he gets to play. He's versatile. He can play both. But on passing downs, I'd rather see Eric Armstead inside than outside. And you have Nick Bosa, who's coming off an injury. You also, even if he comes back from the injury successfully, you don't know how many, or if he's going to get all 17 games from him, and if it's going to be 2019 form Nick Bosa. Then on the other side, you have Samson Ebukam, who is transitioning from 3-4 linebacker to 4-3 defensive end. I know those are very similar positions, but he's going to have to pass rush a lot. And he's the number 2 guy now. He doesn't have Aaron Donald next to him now. So there's a lot of issues there. And then Jordan Willis' suspension, that hurts the depth there. Yep. I think they need to re-sign Dion Jordan as soon as possible. I know a lot of people also want Demontre Moore back. And then I think they got to use training camp when teams are cutting all their guys because of salary cap issues, or teams that got defensive end in the first 2 rounds that didn't think they were gonna, and they can move on from a veteran. The 49ers need to grab a couple of those guys and let one of the highest paid assistant coaches in the NFL, Chris Kosrick, do his magic.
Good call.
So one question I have is there's 2 groups that I'm looking at that really have depth issues on our team. That's our cornerback position. We're banking on 2 rookies to come in and actually contribute. And if one of our starting cornerbacks were to get injured, we really don't have anybody besides rookies to step in and play. So to me, I think that's like our biggest position that has the least depth on our roster. The second one is the offensive line. I mean, sure, it should be improved from last season, but again, we're banking on Aaron Banks. We're banking on who was the tackle
Jalen Moore.
Jalen Moore, yeah. So we're banking on rookies to come in and make an impact immediately. To me, I mean, that's especially once we lost school for the season. Those are really, I think, areas that we have unproven players that we're counting on as depth, but we don't know for sure how they're going to pan out.
Yeah, at least the Niners went out and got Jalen Moore, and they still have Daniel Brunskill. They lost Justin School, and that's a big problem. They have Sean Coleman. Who knows what he can do? You mentioned cornerback. That's legit. Now, they do have Diamador Lenore and Ambry Thomas, so they tried. I don't know if that's good enough, but they tried. They're definitely thin at defensive end. I'm going to say another spot on the defense, safety. I mean, Jaquiski Tartt missed a bunch of games last year. Tavarius Moore is gone for a while. The top backup is Tony Jefferson, who hasn't really played much since tearing his ACL. And then after him is Talanoa Hufanga. So it seems like they could definitely use another safety, whether it's Malik Hooker, Earl Thomas, Ronnie Lott, someone. They could, Burton Hanks could really use Deshaun Goldson. I don't know. Eric Davis. No, Eric Reed is what I meant to say. Someone. Because really, if Jaquiski Tartt played 17 games, that's more than you can expect, given his track record. So it's interesting. I feel like the defense isn't that deep. They have good starters, but everything we mentioned was the D ends, very deep at D tackle. They're not particularly deep at linebacker. They got some undrafted free agents they like backing up, and they're very thin in the secondary. So that's D'Amico Ryans is walking a tightrope that he didn't create. Interesting.
Yeah, one injury at linebacker, and Azeez Al-Shaair is the top guy out there. And right. I don't know if they're comfortable with Azeez Al-Shaair playing
100% snaps.
Yeah,
that's right. It really seems like there's a ton of depth on offense. Deep wide receiver room, deep running back room, deep tight end room, deep quarterback room. So that's interesting.
Because it's sort of a shift from previous years where the defense was a lot deeper and the offense
super deep. When they went in 2019, I felt like the defense was deep in 2019. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. Mav also mentioned something interesting with D'Amico Ryans. You know, he came up in a 3-4 defensive system. So I don't know if we're going to see some of that. Are we going to have the 4 linebackers out on the field? It's going to be a little bit different, I think, from Robert Saleh's defensive scheme. So that's going to be interesting. You know,
true. Samson Ebukam was a 3-4 player on the Rams too. Maybe they'll have more looks.
And if you look at what James Betcher's defense was with the New York Giants, they were all 300-plus pound defensive linemen. Sure. And that they've shown that this offseason on signing Mo Hurst and signing Zach Kerr. They're putting an emphasis on those defensive line guys. And another thing what Betcher did, where he would bring Jabril Peppers down into the box. So you might see that with Tony Jefferson is kind of like who you mentioned is kind of that strong safety that can play in the box. And they might be doing that a lot more instead of going 3 linebackers, have an extra safety on the field to play that Jimmy Ward, Tony Jefferson, whoever they want. Because Betcher did that a lot.
Would you call that big nickel? 5 DBs, 3 safeties? Yeah.
Yeah, like college defense too, where it's just a bunch of NFL safeties. Yeah.
And I know he has worked with Tony Jefferson before in Arizona, so Jefferson just has to show that he's back and he's ready to play. Who's the guy they had last year? Cyprian? I need to get him.